Coming up tonight, Pablo Picasso, Steven Spielberg, Richard Branson, Albert Einstein, all of them gifted and successful, all of them dyslexics. Tonight on CityPulse, Stuart Byrne shares his story of growing up with dyslexia. And contrary to what many may think, dyslexia is not a disability. It can actually be a great gift. Also tonight, electric scooters are the latest transportation trend, but some are already raising safety concerns. This and more. Stay with us. An all-new CityPulse starts beating right now. Good evening and welcome to CityPulse. We're live on this chilly Monday night porque mira que the weather's changed and heads up, we're expecting a downpour later on. Let's just hope the weather holds out till the cast and crew get home after the show. Talking of which, on the sofa tonight, Julian Felice. Welcome back, Julian.
Good evening, it's nice to be back.
¿Cómo estamos bien?
And you've got a few weeks break.
Few weeks break.
Watching Paul instead.
And we've got Paul Line as well. 3 weeks on the trot. Tres en raya.
Yeah, you really are desperate, okay?
Actually, thank you very much, Paul, because you stood in at last minute and helped us out. But I think they would settle. You like it. And guys, it's very apt that both of you coincidentally are on tonight, because tonight's story is one which you guys at school will obviously have come across, and you've got that insight as well. And just before we introduce tonight's guest, just a reminder to people at home, this is the reminder que soy super pesado every week. Remember, we've got someone sharing their story and insight and experience here this week. Next time it could be you. Why not get in touch with us? And we're going to open those channels of communication. Jackie will play that on the screen. And remember, this year it's also easier than ever. We've also got a WhatsApp number to make it easier to send those videos, those photos of all those issues, big and small, that you spot around town. If you share them on social media, why not tell us about it? And we're going to move on, porque hace frío, so let's warm up rapidito, no? Welcome, Julian. Welcome to CityPulse. Stuart, sorry, did I call you Julian? Sabía que iba a pasar. You know what? I was dreading it, and I was saying inside, obviously I know your brother as well. Me equivoqué. Tanto planning y pasó. So welcome to CityPulse.
Thank you.
You were recently on the hub as well, because it was Dyslexia Awareness Week. Much awareness nowadays. I think most people know. We come from a different era when perhaps dyslexia was something we had to look up in the dictionary, no existía Google. But just to place the audience, tell us, what is dyslexia? Vamos a empezar facilito.
Just to try and make it as simple as possible, dyslexia is the way the brain works. Mm-hmm. So the brain processes information at a different speed in a different way. So that obviously affects the way you process information, and it affects the time element of processing the information. And normally dyslexics use I think it's the left side of the brain, which is the creative side of the brain more. So that's why you find that they're so creative.
And it's not something which is super rare, no? There's quite a number of people affected or have this issue or this... how would you term it?
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, officially it is termed as a disability, but we don't like to use that kind of terminology because really we can excel in lots of other things. You know, dyslexics should be treated individually the same as everybody else. We've got weaknesses and we've got strengths, the same as everybody else. So, you know, even though officially it's good to have that label of disability because it ensures that we get the assistance and the help that we need in those areas that we struggle with. But we've also got very good gifts and very good strengths, so that's important as well.
And yours is a journey which has been chronicled on television, the beauty of GBC, of local community television. We're going to ask you how it felt growing up, but better still, we have a little clip from the late 1980s.
You've talked about reading and visuals with letters, but numbers obviously must be pose an equal problem. So how do you cope with arithmetic?
Well, I cope very well. My teachers have said that I get through it well, and I get the work done quite normally. But when it comes to my times table and things that I have to remember, that's most of my problem is the remembering. And when it comes to things that I have to remember, I get stuck on it. The times table, I hardly know any. I know the simple ones, but now I have different. I make up my own ways of getting through it. Instead of times in it, I plus it, and I plus it. Let's say it's 5 times 7. I write 5 7 times, and then I add it. And that's how I cope with most things. I make my own ways of getting past them. And the times table is a very hard thing to remember for me. And I do well in the maths, but not as well as I could do.
¿Qué? ¿Cómo te ves? Por aquí estoy escuchando yo, ay, qué mono, ¿eh? Well, como niño, you know, you express yourself quite well, you explained it quite well. Looking back, do you still agree with what you said back there?
Yeah, no, as
you seem very positive.
Well, I was very lucky. I had a very good support system. You know, my parents were very, very supportive, and luckily enough, they found out quite early on, and got the help that I needed early on. So, you know, I didn't have the stigma in a bad way, and I was, you know, positive. My parents made sure that I was positive, you know, always encouraged the work. Instead of encouraging the grade, make sure you get an A in this, it was as long as your effort is high, as long as, you know, your school report, if your effort is A, B's, you know, it doesn't matter what your achievement was, as long as you were trying.
Of course.
So that was really encouraging. They were very helpful, and my brother and sister were always supportive as well, you know, so I'm thankful to God for all of them.
And what do you remember about your day-to-day in school? Did you dread going to school? Because we're talking, just to place the audience, we're going back to the 80s when dyslexia was not something all of us knew about. There was not that awareness that exists today. You know, y era muy común. You guys are teachers. Paul, you go back to that era in teaching, ¿no? Y era común decir, el niño un poquito torpe, or el niño is not academically...
Yeah. I think when I mentioned before to Stuart, I felt as somebody who started teaching in the early 80s, we were very ill-equipped. We really were. Terms like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, autism, they were alien to us.
Yeah.
They were alien to us. One would hope that now more recent teacher training courses address these things, because I wouldn't have known if I had a dyslexic child in my class at all. It was only probably in the last 10 years of teaching where I started to understand a little bit more about it. And that's because of the research and the support structures that the Department of Education in Gibraltar had in place. But you mentioned about the mathematics. What about written problems? Were they a big issue for you?
Me personally, you know, my childhood in school, it wasn't as difficult as maybe you would think as a dyslexic, you know. I mean, maybe my father could, you know, interject a little bit there, but I wasn't maybe the typical, as I was found out quite early on, you know. I think when you start going into middle school is when it starts getting more and more difficult. The language gets more complicated, the amount of words to remember gets much higher, so that is when it gets more difficult. And by that time, I was already on the road to being diagnosed, so I was very lucky. So I didn't get as much of the bullying, the stigma, the you know, low self-esteem that you can get if you're, you know, found out, if you're diagnosed later on in life. So yeah, I was very lucky, you know, I was very lucky. But obviously, I still did struggle, and I still did have problems with you know, written language and spellings and times tables. The same things that nearly every dyslexic struggles with. It's a processing issue. It's remembering, the short-term memory. You know, parents of dyslexic children will you know, really understand this when I say this. You'll be reading with your child or doing maybe times tables or spellings, and they'll know them all. And then tomorrow, you'll go with them they'll read the same page or they'll read the same spellings and they can't do them.
Retention.
Yeah, retention, and they won't be able to do them. And it's very frustrating as a parent because you maybe spend hours teaching them, these 5 spellings, and then the next day you do it with them and they know it, and then the next day and they know it. Then it comes Friday and they don't know it, and they fail, the exam at school or their times table, something like that. So it's a very frustrating thing for a child who works very hard to learn something, and then it just disappears, and you can't bring it out. It is very, very frustrating. And then what happens? Your peers look at you. You can't even get one spelling right. You can't get your times table right.
Lots of that in school.
Yeah.
Classmates.
That's kids. Kids can be very what's the word? Difficult and
honest, brutal.
Yeah, honest and brutal at times. And as a dyslexic, I think sometimes or you struggle in any area, you have to learn to have a thick skin and these kind of things.
Did you develop that early on, you think, or did it affect you for a while? Or
it affects you. It still affects me.
So I remember. I didn't have that struggle, but I always found it really nerve-wracking when we were asked to read out loud in class, when I was younger, or those like pop quizzes or exams. I got really, really nervous. Sort of about retention. So for you, must have been nightmarish.
Something that struck me watching that, Stuart, because I knew you at that age. We were in the same school year, and in fact, it was through you that I ever first learnt about dyslexia and that word and everything. No? But something that struck me in that video was the maturity there. No? He was a very young boy who's just very accepting of the difficulties you encountered. No? And you already at that young age devised your own strategies for dealing with it. You spoke about how you multiplied, which is effectively just adding up. No? And I think, obviously at the time I was unaware of everything, but looking back, there's a great maturity there, and it's not also you don't get the impression watching that he's someone who's angry at what life has thrown at him. No, this is someone who just, as I said, accepting.
Yeah, he does.
That obviously must have helped in your journey. No?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, finding out at a time when I was still young and still learning and coming up through the education system was really helpful. And when you have supportive parents. That's why in the dyslexia support group we try to empower parents. Educate yourself. Find out as much as you can to help your child. Also, I think obviously dyslexics are very creative, so they will find tricks and tools and ways to get around their problems. And that is why like you mentioned, Richard Branson. He doesn't read or write. Hardly. He's got secretaries for that, but he's got a multi-million, he's a multi-millionaire. So you find ways of getting around those things.
Become a resourceful person.
Yeah, you can become very resourceful. Apart from anything else, we're very good problem solvers. I think it's twofold. Firstly, with the way our brain works, but also because we have been forced to find alternatives. So we become very good problem solvers. I also think that we can be very we have a very good way of connecting with people. We can be blunt at times, and the way we think and we can say things very bluntly at times. But we connect with people, and what I found as a youngster that I connected with adults better than I did with my peers. So I would be at a friend's party and I would be spending time with the adults, sitting with the adults, talking, instead of sitting with my peers. And I think that helped with my maturity. And I think that is not unique just to me. I think that you will find that with dyslexics. They seem to be able to relate to different age groups more easily. They don't just stay in their age group. They're willing to meet new people and converse with other people, and obviously that helps with the maturity thing.
So probably we had an education system that was failing people with dyslexia because there was so much emphasis on completing things in a certain time. Exams were timed, mental arithmetic tests were timed, and sometimes if a child needs 10 seconds instead of 5, well, they've got there. Unless you're in one of these situations in life where you need that split second, whether you're a pilot in a fighter jet or something like that, you look back and think, well, did it really matter?
Yeah.
You know, and of course, I know how young children tick to a certain extent. You know, you fail the first one, and you're thinking about that one. You've missed the second, and in the end, your self-esteem is dropping.
Yeah.
And it is a great shame. I think we have done a great injustice.
Did you feel your self-esteem was badly hit? I mean, at the time, you didn't have the resources or the support. It was something new. Schools perhaps were not aware of the problem.
I think that you can tell, obviously, my father's from the UK, so we spoke a lot of English at home. And back in our day, a lot more Spanish was spoken in school. So to a certain extent, people would come to me to ask me about English things. I would always tell them, look, when it comes to spelling, forget it. But I could tell you how to phrase a sentence, the grammar of it verbally.
Plus there,
yeah, so
I
was encouraged by that. I would have my peers come in and asking me things, especially, I obviously went into Group 2 for English. So even though I was in Group 2, if you had tested me verbally, I shouldn't probably have been in Group 2. So I was in Group 2 for English with people who English was not their first language.
Yeah.
So my reading and writing may have not been at that level, but my verbal English was good enough. So I would have a lot of people who, maybe were still in the fast launch culture, in my class. And I would look around and say, well, okay, maybe I may not be in this class because I'm less intelligent or I'm not intelligent enough, but because I have dyslexia. So having that label, having that name to be able to give myself really, really helps, and it's something that, people argue over it, but for me as a dyslexic, it helped me a great deal to be able to have that label for myself.
Stuart, you mentioned someone there. Support at school perhaps wasn't there, was absent, but someone stepped up, and that was your mum. A big hello to your mum, Marie, because she was meant to come on tonight, but unfortunately she was unable to. I think we've got a little clip we're going to watch as well.
Hereditary, is dyslexic?
Well, there is,
hereditary,
yes, it does. There is a lot of pointers to the fact that it is hereditary. Yes, we find that we have found within our own family that there are quite a few.
Really?
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, on both my husband's side and on my own side, yeah.
Earlier on, we heard that there are more boys than girls
right,
with dyslexia.
yes.
That's very interesting. I wonder why that is.
Yes, I think it's something to do with something that language is on one side of the brain. I'm not very sure exactly why. In boys, there is a difference there, but I'm not exactly sure why. But the proportion of boys to girls is much, much higher. It's something like 3 to 1. Yes, we have 17, at the moment, 17 boys registered with us as diagnosed dyslexic, and only 7 girls.
And there are probably a lot more that haven't been diagnosed.
Oh, yes, I'm sure there must be. Yes, there must be.
Just very finally then, Marie, what is your next step as a support group?
Well, we would definitely want to speak to the government again, put forward again our points. Also, we want to carry on making the public aware of what dyslexia is and of ways of coping with it and of ways of making it something that our children don't have to struggle so badly with. And also fundraising, because we need funds in order to get these high-low books. And
Tu madre, guapa sale tu madre, eh? And tell you what, an era when, a time period when we didn't know much about this, your mum set out to research, lay the foundations for the support group that you actually taken on nowadays. There you have a mum who's actually gone way out. Tell us about your mum. And what how she contributed.
She was amazing. Just before I talk about her, I just want to point out, obviously, back then, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all the research that we have. So,
more mérito.
Yeah, at the moment, as far as I know, there is no difference between a male and a female with dyslexia. That is a myth. What happens is that males get diagnosed more often, but it's it's not discriminative, you know. So both my son and my daughter are dyslexic, so it doesn't matter. I think what happens often is dyslexic boys are normally more boisterous. That's why the word is boisterous, I'm sure. So it comes out. It comes out maybe in their behaviour and other things, and it's recognised more often. But there's nothing between the two. It's equal for both. But my mum was amazing. You know, I was lucky because in St Mary's, one of my teachers was a good friend of my mum's, and she highlighted the fact that she thought I was dyslexic. So my mum, you know, went to the UK, got books, and as you do back then, it was a lot of going here, going there, seeing specialists, taking me to the UK to see specialists, and then what she did was there was no teachers here trained to teach dyslexia, so she trained herself and started teaching me. You know, a lot of
lessons. After
yeah, she gave me lessons. So a lot of the spelling techniques that I know today and I still use today, I've learned from her. And then even during the summer, we would go on holiday up the Costa del Sol, and you know, my brother and sister would be sleeping. I would get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and have a lesson with her before the day started. It was tough.
How did you feel about that? Seeing your...
I knew I needed it. You know, I knew I needed it. And she says that I was very good. There were times it was tough.
She did tell us you were a very good student.
Yeah, there were times where it was tough, and, you know, she did have to force me. But a lot of the time I knew that I needed it, and I knew that it was for my benefit, you know, and I was grateful. And I am still grateful. I'm very grateful, you know, because I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't have excelled and succeeded as much if it wasn't for her. And then later on in years after that, I had lots of other teachers over the years, and they all, you know, played a part. But the initial stage, you know, she taught herself. She got, I think it was the Alpha to Omega, and she used that to teach me. And it was great, and it's still a tool that is used today.
You said about teachers who helped you because they had an increased or a heightened awareness. If you have a class nowadays, Julian, are you advised that you have children with dyslexia in the class?
Yeah, the information
is there. Is good.
Is quite thorough as well. You know, I think we're better prepared for it as a profession. There's more support as well available in the classroom and also in like exam scenarios, for example. So I think that the profession has come a long way, perhaps from your day. You know, the training has improved as well. I'm sure that Stuart could still advise on where we need to go next as a society generally to try and give everyone, you know, to try and be as inclusive as possible with all these difficulties. But certainly I do feel that you know, quite well informed when I'm in the classroom. Yeah.
It must have been frustrating for you though when you had a teacher who wasn't as well informed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that going back to my mum, looking at that video, you know, and thinking how little has changed over the last 20 years, it saddens me, you know, and to think that very little has changed. Some has changed, you know.
You still have to catch up.
But there's still a lot. And, you know, I think that in Gibraltar, we've got a very good thing, and sometimes it's a negative. We look outside of ourselves, normally to the UK, for how we should do things. But the UK is behind in this as well. So our problem is we're looking at a flawed system to improve our own system. And, you know, one thing that we say in the Dyslexia Support Group is that Gibraltar can be, you know, leading in this kind of field, in learning difficulty field. We're small enough, our education system is small enough to really be a leader in Europe for this kind of thing.
It's an issue that comes up every week on the show, isn't it? So with different things. Not that Gibraltar could lead in so many sectors just because of our smallness, or tailor-make our own solutions, no? But your schooling, did it get easier? You had your mum giving you that extra assistance, that teaching, but you also changed school as well, because the conditions would provide you with a better learning environment. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So what happened was I got to Bayside. You know, I was running the mid, you know, averaging obviously struggling with English mainly, maybe a bit Spanish, the language side of things. And my parents found out that in Sotorande, the international school in Sotorande, had a special unit for dyslexia. And they obviously wanted to send me there. So I ended up going there, and I did my GCSEs there. It was apart from the unit, it was also a change. I had been, I think it was 2 years in Bayside, so being in a all-boys school for 2 years, Sotorande was mixed. Obviously, it was, firstly, I didn't know anyone, so obviously you go through the education system in Gibraltar, you go with your friends to Bayside. I didn't know anyone there.
The clean page, perhaps?
Yeah, in that sense, yeah.
Maybe?
In that sense, yeah. At the same time, obviously, it was a bit nerve-wracking. But again, you know, like Julian was mentioning before, I've never had a problem with fitting in, really. That's never been an issue. And I think that dyslexics, you know, I don't want to use this word, but because it can sound a little bit negative, but a bit of a chameleon, and you know, they can settle in, they can fit in quite well a lot of the times, and I did that. I was very comfortable, and I think confident in myself enough to do it, and that was beneficial for me. You know, I think that was a really good time for me, learning not just academically, but you know. About life as well. Going there, a different scene, a different nation. I know it's close to us, but it was a different way of doing things, a different school, a very small school. Now it's much bigger, but it was a very small school. I think each year had like one class or maybe two classes. So it was a very small school, a very family-orientated school. So I think that was very beneficial as well.
So another thing there, with each person it's different, isn't it? Yeah. Each person has different requirements or requires different kinds of assistance. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, dyslexia is like most any other thing. It can be in different levels of severity. So you can have someone who's very, very severe, or you can have someone who's mild. And you will find that someone maybe who's mildly dyslexic could get through, you know, the education system without ever being diagnosed, or maybe get to, you know, comprehensive, or maybe into university and then found out when they're in university. So someone who's mildly dyslexic and, you know, average or above average intelligence can get through the system. But if you are severe, then that's a different kettle of fish.
And how severe can a person be?
Very, very severe. I mean, my mum used to say I was very severe. I mean, obviously going back is you know, a bit of a blur for me. I'm young, but still it's I don't remember that much. But you know, things like the B and the D, you know, swapping the B's and the D's, you know, obviously the times table, you know, the spellings, those kind of things were super, super difficult. And you know, my story is kind of unique, as I was, you know, I had the support. I was diagnosed and found out early, but I thank God that my kids don't hate school, because most dyslexic kids hate school. Yeah. You know, and I've spoken to adults, and I can see the hate they have for school. And I don't like to use the word hate, but it's really, you know, you can see that the scars are really deep, because they've been told they're stupid, they're lazy all their lives, and it can be a really, really horrible time. For me, school was not great, but it wasn't that horrible. But, you know, a lot of children, tummy aches, headaches.
They're feigning so as not to.
I'm sick, you know, and that's very normal for a dyslexic child, you know, who's been bullied at school, you know, maybe you think the word bullied by a teacher sounds harsh, but it is. You know, if you're being told that you're stupid and you're lazy when you're not, that's bullying, and a child can be very, very scarred, and you know, not want to go to school. Think, oh, tomorrow I've got English. Oh, they're gonna ask me to read up in front of class. The nerves by itself will give you a tummy ache. Yeah. You know, so it can be a horrid time. And you talk to many adult dyslexics, and you can. I mean, I spoke to one. His face changed. You know, from a calm, collective guy to a really, you know, angry person just by talking about his years at school. So it can be very scarring.
And now as a grown-up, I mean, because unfortunately time is always against us, we've got to move the story along. But as a grown-up now, how do you cope with it? How do you deal with it? Is life easier now? Obviously, you've been on a journey. You've learned a number of things. You've learned... Is it easier?
Yeah.
You find in the workplace, perhaps, there's situations, or is the workplace perhaps that more flexible? There's no exams, which are timed.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that helps a great deal is modern technology, obviously. You know, the word processor and, you know, spell checks, that is great, you know. I mean, I work in admin now, and you wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah, obviously, with my work with the Dyslexia Support Group, I've had to write articles, write letters, give interviews. So I've had to train myself, I've had to work. I mean, the brain is a muscle.
Yeah.
So the more you work at it, the better you get, and that's with everything. So, you know, I've improved in those areas, but yeah, word processing really helps. You know, be able to type things, being able to move things around on the page at will, being able to spell check, and all that is really, really helpful. But a lot of the time, you don't get that in school, even though those helps can be afforded to people, but a lot of them don't get those things that can really, really help them.
And you're a parent yourself nowadays. Obviously, with dyslexia, it must have had a positive impact in that you can now, you're one better than your mum, you can identify from an early age. Tell us about, for parents who might be watching, what things should they be looking out for?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened with my son. You know, my son is the youngest, I've got a daughter and a son. And obviously, dyslexia, if a parent has dyslexia, your child has a 40% chance of having
40%?
40%, if one of your parents have dyslexia. And dyslexia runs in both my wife and my family. So the percentage must be higher.
Well.
So the likelihood of my children being dyslexic was quite high. So obviously I was keeping an eye out for things. One of the things that is quite common for dyslexics is delayed speech. So a child normally is starting to speak around 1 year old. If your child is struggling and is not speaking, you know, a year and a half, 2 years, or just speaking very little. Basically, they're not speaking at the same time as their peers. That's a sign. Obviously, that alone is not enough. You know, if there's a history of dyslexia, these are signs. So please, you know, keep this in mind that these are signs by themselves. They're not enough, but you know, in conjunction with a history of dyslexia in the family and other signs, there are things to keep an eye out for. So that's one thing that you can keep an eye out for very early on, before the child is even reading or writing. So then other things that children with dyslexia struggle with is finding the hand that they write with.
Okay.
So directionality is a problem with them. So they struggle with the right and the left. So they struggle with telling, you know, the right from the left. So they can get lost very easily. So if your child, you know, you ask them go left and they go right, or you ask them to, you know, go down the road to someone's house and they don't make it there, that's a sign. If your child is writing one hand and then the next minute they're writing with the other hand, and you know, in school and stuff, they'll say, that's normal, they'll grow out of it, but dyslexics won't. They'll carry on, and they'll find it, they'll take longer to find their dominant hand. That's the way to explain it. They'll take longer to find their dominant hand. So these are just little signs, little things like struggling with bringing up words, which that happens to me still, and that will probably always happen. Trying to bring out words, your vocabulary is there. I know what it's called. I know that's called a glass, but I will struggle to bring the word out of my brain. So it's a lot of bringing that thingy, bring the thing over there. It's a lot of thingies, and ahs, whilst your brain is processing, trying to get that word out. So often what I do is I use words which are similar. So I have this, thing with my kids. I say, bring me the coat. And they say, no, that's not a coat, that's a jacket. So hey, well, just bring it. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's the word that I can bring out at that moment in time. That is the closest word that I can to the thing that I need. So it's a bit of a processing issue. Another thing that I've noticed is some children with dyslexia struggle with physical touch, with texture. With my son, for example, he struggled a lot with grass and with the sand and with labels on the clothes. So texture, and that can also be with food, as well. That can happen as well. Glue ear, problems with the ears, a lot of earaches and stuff like that. So these are a lot of little things that can happen before they're reading and writing. And then things, as they grow up a little bit older, tying the shoelaces. That's a very common one. Tying the shoelaces struggle. It's the directionality side of things. And then obviously when you come to reading and writing, then that is the more common things. The telltale signs, the B's and the D's, mixing those up. Writing words backwards. That's a common one as well, and that would be maybe associated with more severe dyslexia. Not everybody writes backwards, and we don't see backwards. That's a fallacy, So there's lots of little things.
Stuart, unfortunately, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And Mr. Murphy is already on it. But I know you've taken on from your mum, the support group. Just tell us, people at home, what can they expect from the support group? If a parent has, might think their child might be dyslexic or might have concerns or might want more information, what do you guys do? What do you offer?
Well, we have a homework club, which basically parents can bring their children to. That's once a week. And they get free teaching, basically, by teachers who know about dyslexia and trained in dyslexia. But we're a support group. We're here to support. We want to listen to your stories, encourage you with our stories, make you feel that you're not alone and understand what you're going through. We've all been through it. And I think, kind of a shoulder to cry on, and hopefully encourage you and show you the way to go in the next steps to take. If you think your child is dyslexic, what should you do? And if you have been diagnosed, your child has been diagnosed, now what do you do? So we're here to support in anything that we can.
And I'm aware you guys have a Facebook page. We've been playing that as well. People can look you up on Facebook, GIB Dyslexia Support Group.
Yeah.
Yep. And I don't want to end the conversation. I'm very aware we have a lot of younger viewers who watch CityPulse. What would you tell a young person who might be watching and might be going through this?
I would say to work on your strengths. Work on your strengths. We all have weaknesses. We all have strengths, dyslexics and non-dyslexics. Work on your strengths. You obviously have to work on your weaknesses as well, but focus on your strengths and you will achieve. You just look at all the famous dyslexics. They've focused on their strengths and they've done amazing things like Steve Jobs and stuff. So yeah, do that.
Stuart, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And tell you what, you mentioned the gifts of dyslexia. There's always a plus. From what I observed from you as well, the gift that you got is that extra special bond that you have with your mum. I think it's very telling. We're all very bonded with our parents, but you can see there's a special relationship there. And a big hello to your mum at home.
Thank you, Mum.
And to you at home, we've heard Stuart's story today. Stuart, como ya no me he equivocado. And this is where I invite you to get in touch with us. He's told us his story. Why not? Maybe we could hear yours, and you might be able to inspire or help someone else out as well. We'll be back in 2 minutes with part 2 and those issues, big and small. Don't go too far. And welcome back. We're back with part 2, that time of the week when we look at issues big and small. But before we do, I know you guys love this, we're in Jib, the yesteryear edition.
I hoped he'd forgotten.
Okay, sure, you don't know about this game, do you? It's what it is. We're in Jib. We're going to put up a picture of somewhere in Gibraltar, and you have to guess where it is. The twist this year is we're playing yesteryear pick. So it's a place that existed and might exist or not exist nowadays? If you know the answer, keep it to yourself and we'll come back to you at the end of the show. We're going to play that quickly, but we're going to coge el toro. And there you go. Look at it. Savor it. And we'll come back to it at the end of the show. We'll play it again, so don't worry too much. Aquí tú hablando de que no time, exams y eso, y nosotros vamos y te ponemos un test, ¿has visto cómo somos, no? We're going to move on now, guys, because scooters, those electric scooters, they seem to be the thing to commute around easily. No problem with zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Te quitas el problema. But, and we see more and more of them over time. I think we've got a few clips. We're going to watch those clips and then we're going to come back and comment. And as you can see, you see them everywhere, going down wrong way, might we add, down the bicycle lane on Irishtown. Quite a few young people in the gaming industry as well, in the Aero Ocean Village. And look at that, going wrong way as well, against the flow of traffic. Yeah. There, with all the other traffic, he's wearing a helmet though, at least. Joining the traffic on Winston Churchill Avenue. And skates. Well, there on the busy Ahí de la Cruz, the sundial. Guys, very practical. We've got the massive problem of parking, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. These things have taken off the world over. Capital cities makes commutes easier. Voy a empezar por ti, Julian, because I know you're a keen cyclist.
Yeah, and you know, I'm always here advocating not using cars, no? And it's one of the things that I like to fly that flag. You know? Anything that gets off people out of cars, I think is a good thing. I'm more worried about why they need to be electric. What was wrong with an old-fashioned scooter? Because apart from avoiding the parking and everything, it's healthy, it's good exercise. I mean, it's crazy to go in that traffic with a scooter. You know, I try to avoid doing it in a bicycle, but clearly I think it's something that as it becomes more popular, some regulation needs to happen. You know? But yeah, get off the electronic scooters and use a proper scooter.
Yeah, they move quite fast. Have you seen them around town?
Speed some of them get up to, yes.
Yeah.
Do we know where the RGP stand on these?
Well, we've been checking legislation in the newsroom and we're waiting for replies to questions. Under the definition of the law, they're a motor vehicle. So it would seem that they would require those necessary permits, licenses, insurances, tail lights, helmet. Like I say, we're waiting on a position to hear an official. But again, with these vehicles, you know, we were talking earlier, I forget the name, those platforms with the steering.
I've lost
Do you remember?
Segways.
Remember when they came into Gib? They started being sold everywhere. And it took a while for us to decide, and I think that they remain illegal vehicles in Gibraltar.
Well, the Segway or the hover thing?
That's it. It looks really like spacey Back to the Future type thing, doesn't it? Yeah. I suppose it's a question of maybe legislation. They started, only a handful of people were using them, but now we're seeing quite a few.
I think legislation needs to catch up with the trend, to a certain extent. I mean, I'm not sure about the regulations you mentioned before. I'm not sure if a bicycle would count as.
I think bicycle has a
bicycles
separate
don't
thing
have
in
to be
law.
registered.
Exactly. They have a
you
separate
don't
thing
have
in
to
law.
wear a helmet. You know that the rules obviously you still have to follow the flow of traffic. You can't use it in a pavement. It's advised to have the lights on it, etc. I think legislation needs to catch up because you know it's clearly becoming a bit of a problem. No,
do you think perhaps a nuisance? People are trying to be practical, move around quickly, given all the problems we have in Gibraltar.
It's like everybody else. You've got car drivers who are very good, and you've got car drivers who are a nuisance. You've got motorbike riders who are very good, motorbike riders. The same with these scooter people. I've seen some people doing very well and very aware, very polite, good road sense, good road manners. I've seen others, an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. Would you be comfortable on one of them on the road?
Never.
None of you?
No, at all.
I thought
too
about
exposed.
getting one, to be honest.
Yeah?
Too exposed.
Would you go on the road with that?
Yeah. I mean, I used to cycle like Julian, you know, and with a helmet, the right, you know, gear, lighting or whatever. I think if it's done responsibly, why not? Obviously, our roads, you know, I don't know with the holes, with the wheels the size on a scooter, but you know, I think it's done properly. A lot of those clips, they were going against the flow of traffic. That's just ridiculous. Yeah, it's an accident waiting to happen.
And do you think perhaps, I mean, they've taken off the world over, capital cities. Do you think perhaps in Gibraltar, unfortunately, we can't have everything? And perhaps we need to legislate against popular opinion just because the restrictions we have, our size, our roads, Gibraltar is constantly...
Well, if we're worried about the danger of cars, then let's use our cars a bit less. Again,
okay.
my favourite subject. Well, let's walk, let's use the bus, let's just cycle, let's scooter, whatever it is. Let's just try and use our cars a little bit less.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Gibby bikes. You can collect them, but I'm being told in capital cities you also have sites where you deposit your scooter. Maybe that's an idea for Mr. Valvan to implement once we take a decision. No?
And hopefully it'll be a little bit more popular than the Gibby bikes as well.
Do you think that's taken off as a cyclist, Julian? How do you see it?
No, I don't use it myself because I've got my own bike. But you know, Gibraltar is a difficult place to cycle in, whether we like it or not. It's a very unsafe place to cycle in. No, I only really cycle early in the morning or late in the evenings, because of the amount of traffic, we're not really built for cyclists. And I think we need to look at ways to kind of make that a little bit better. Yeah. The city walls, that pathway would be ideal. But it's not a continuous. It's not a continuous route.
Yeah.
I was in London recently, and I saw a lot of things that they've done in London to make cycling easier, and it was, you know, really, really well thought out. And I think, well, we should do that. Just little things like having, you know, a traffic light for bicycles that goes green before the cars to let the bicycles get out of the way and go first. The line where the cars stop was a little bit further for bicycles in front, so they're not stuck in between all the traffic. Just lots of little creative things, you know, just think outside the box. And I think, you know, I'm sure there's other countries that cycle a lot more that we could learn from. And honestly, I think that a lot of our pavements are wide enough to put a cycle lane in. I'm not sure about this going through Irish Town and Main Street thing.
Perhaps as we continue to build, we should really be considering implementing these things, which more than often are decided at the last minute. No? Talking of which, Gibraltar is constantly in construction, although it's not linked, but I will get there. GDSG's been fined this last week £4,000 at the Magistrates Court after pleading guilty to allowing dust emissions in contravention of environmental regulations. And this relates to an incident back in August when the Environmental Agency received 3 complaints from members of the public regarding excessive levels of black dust, the area of GDSG. I mean, Gibraltar has grown quite a bit, and unfortunately we all live close to something. How much can we manage that situation? It is one of those problems that has affected the South District for quite a bit now.
Yeah, but I suppose there must be other areas of town and around Gibraltar that have been just as affected with building works.
Which is where I was heading.
I live more or less in the centre of town, and we've had works going on around us now for the best part of a year, now on one side and now further up the lane. And the initial works with the demolition, we've had dust and stuff coming down on our terrace. They've been good, the company, they've come and they've cleaned up regularly, but I suppose this has happened because they were alerted to it. There could be other occasions where people have said, oh, well, we'll just get on with it and clean up ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, we do try to manage, but it is getting increasingly difficult. No? We've got all those schools going up.
Yeah. I don't know much about the circumstances of this particular case, no, but I wonder if £4,000 enough of a deterrent to encourage a company to take safe measures. I think the ESG possibly may have come out today precisely saying that.
That's right.
Kind of complaining about the size of the fine itself. Is it a punishment really for a company? Is it an incentive for them to look at ways to make things a bit safer if what you're getting is perhaps a financial slap on the wrist almost. But I don't know enough about it, so I don't...
Which goes on to the second incident, also last week in the Magistrates Court. A transport company was also fined £1,000 for allowing a vehicle within their fleet to transport rubble without it being suitably covered. And again, not taking the necessary action to prevent dust emissions. We see that quite a lot. Gibraltar's in constant construction. We see loads of vehicles. Just last week I was on my bike behind a lorry and it was dripping some sort of like fluid on the road, which made it unsafe. We see quite a bit of that. Are there more measures that perhaps we can take? I mean, Gibraltar's constantly in construction. How much can we do? How much can we really do? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
How long's a piece of string? Yeah, it's that favourite word, isn't it? It's the policing, because the RGP just don't have the physical manpower, because they're an entity which has now gone into so many diverse areas of policing. If we had more policemen around, I think a lot of this stuff would be a deterrent, because I've always said, especially on this programme, Gibraltar is so small. Once you hear that the police are on your case, or they're on the case of scooters in Irish Town, word will spread very quickly. Yeah, you know when the police are on line wall with the speed camera, because within a minute everybody else knows it's on social media. And it just happens.
So do you think these fines, tiny as they might be for our company, do you think it might signal others to behave, or?
Well, I hope so. What are the point of rules if they're not going to be policed? And you hope that sent a signal that this kind of behaviour, almost from this company, irresponsible behaviour, shouldn't be tolerated. But yeah, it just needs to be policed, really, and not just necessarily by the RGP, but even us as a community, just being a bit more aware of what's happening around us.
Yeah. I've seen some large companies transport things in an appropriate manner. It's also then the guy who's trying to make a living, who doesn't probably have all the necessary gear to enclose the back of his truck, and he said, yeah, I'll clear it for £100. Yeah, but then there are bits and pieces flying, and the poor guy's just trying to do his best to earn a living. It's a tough one in that respect. It is a tough one.
And tying to the first topic that we discussed, all those heavy goods vehicles on the roads, damaged roads, potholes, is it safe for scooters?
Certainly not safe for cyclists.
Guys, moving on, and unfortunately we're running out of time, but I really want to mention this. A Gibraltarian is running for Deputy Mayor in Jerusalem council elections. I think that's happening tonight. Marlene's sister, Fleur Hassan Naoum, we were running for office at the elections, and she's standing for the Jerusalem Will Succeed party. And that's happening today. It's a biggie for a Gibraltarian.
It's huge. I mean, I don't think there are places that are more kind of tumultuous than Jerusalem and all that area, no? And we're hoping that in her background, in a place that claims to be quite inclusive. I don't think we're as inclusive as we like to claim we are, but maybe there's a bit of there's a few lessons there maybe that might help to make that part of the world just a little bit safer as well.
Quite proud. It's quite proud for us to have a Gibraltarian there. Marlene, obviously, of course, taking that step forward as well, announcing that she's going to be starting up a party. And in the next few weeks, we should be hearing candidates' names, hopefully. So it runs in the family. It's one of those things which is hereditary, isn't it?
Of course, her father was originally mayor of Gibraltar.
Exactly.
And it's a big next generation now, deputy mayor of Jerusalem, possibly. So, yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
Something to be proud of.
Exciting. No doubt the newsroom will be keeping tabs on that. And tomorrow, GBC Newswatch and across our bulletins on Radio Gibraltar will be bringing you the news of whether she got elected in. Guys, we're running out of time. Unfortunately, we had loads more that we wanted to talk about. We're going to go back to that wearing jib picture. Mr. Murphy, if you can bring it up for us, please. And let's have a refresher. And there it is. Any ideas? Don't mention it, but any ideas?
I've got a wild guess.
Okay.
A few wild guesses.
But you're probably alive during this time, no, Paul? So
That's
That's a bit unfair.
I might appear in one of the photographs.
Isn't that him on the bicycle?
Ahora, la pregunta es, was Paul Janito back then, or was he todavía el inglés? Maybe he wasn't around.
Perhaps had not yet come. I was still on the dark side.
Possibly.
Was he on a scooter, that guy? On the side,
Any ideas? Who wants to take it?
I'll give it a shot
Okay.
as being the outsider here, because Julian keeps reminding me of my roots. It's that Charles V wall, where just opposite now Ince's Hall.
Okay, opposite Ince's Hall.
Yeah,
You guys?
Yeah, obviously that's a city wall of some sort.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the Charles V wall, no? And Ince's Hall used to be, I believe, an area for provost and that kind of military area. So
There you go.
I go with them.
Yeah?
Because that's as much as I can get. A wall, one of the walls.
Mr. Murphy, play the reveal, please. And that's where it is today.
Brilliant.
You got it right.
My self-esteem has risen. Took three weeks on the trot and I got there.
Congratulations, congratulations. Guys, time flies as always. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for joining the expanding universe of CityPulse.
Thank you,
and we'll be in touch. We're going to talk about a few things that we're going to do with you as well. And to you at home, a reminder to get in touch with us. We want to hear about those issues, big and small, and of course, your personal stories. Before we go, heads up, the weather's getting nasty tonight and we're expecting outbreaks of heavy rain. So if you're not home yet, just make sure you get home in time. Let's hope que no nos coja el agua. And we're going to say goodbye y nos vamos. Antes que empiece a llover fuerte, si no ha empezado ya. So from the CityPulse cast and crew, many thanks for watching and we'll see you again in 7 days' time. Good night.